Okay, sixth grade. Today's objective is I can identify Brian's motivation in chapter 11. Now, motivation is the reason for a character's actions. So, way back in chapter 2, if we were talking about Brian's motivation for figuring out a system on the radio, we would say that his motivation was he needed to save himself. So, motivation is the reason for a character's actions. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to read page 98 together. That's the first page of chapter 11. You'll notice that it starts with the words, "There are these things to do." That phrase is going to be repeated all through the chapter. And every time it's repeated, it's a sign that Brian's going to do something in order to be self-sufficient, in order to help himself. Now remember, we're trying to figure out Brian's motivation here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to read and we're going to try to figure out the central idea, because the central idea is the basis from where we can figure out everything else about a book. So let's start reading. I need everyone on the first word. There. There were these things to do. He transferred all the eggs from the small beach into the shelter, reburying them near his sleeping area. It took all his will to keep from eating another one as he moved them, but he got it done, and when they were out of sight again, it was easier. He added wood to the fire and cleaned up the camp area. A good laugh, that, cleaning the camp. All he did was shake out his windbreaker and hang it in the sun to dry the berry juice that had soaked in, and smooth the sand where he slept. But it was a mental thing. He had gotten depressed thinking about how they hadn't found him yet, and when he was busy and had something to do, the depression seemed to leave. So let's figure out the central idea first. Now, our character is obviously Brian. So what's Brian doing here? Well, let's see. He's reburying the eggs near his shelter. Okay, that's one thing he's doing. What else is he doing? Okay, he's cleaning up the camp area. And we know he was shaking his windbreaker. He was smoothing the sand. Okay, so what is the central idea here? Well, I can't say that central idea is not that he reburied some eggs. Central idea is not that he let the berry juice dry. Central idea has to be what this is mostly about. All right, great job. So the central idea is how Brian is doing chores around his campsite. But remember, today we're talking about motivation. So we want to know why. Why is Brian doing these chores? So let's look at the last paragraph. It says, but it was a mental thing. He had gotten depressed thinking about how they hadn't found him yet. And when he was busy and had something to do, the depression seemed to leave. So Brian tells us right here. Why is he doing all these chores? Well, when he does chores, Brian's all happy. Look how much he's smiling. But when he's not doing chores, this is how Brian feels. He's really sad. He feels hopeless. So what is Brian's motivation for doing these chores? Great job. So Brian's motivation is that the chores prevent him from getting depressed. Now, let's do one last thing. Let's go back. Let's look at this paragraph again. He had gotten depressed thinking about how they hadn't found him yet, and when he was busy and had something to do, the depression seemed to leave. So how does that sentence let us know that what Brian's motivation is? Remember, we always have to find evidence to support our analysis. So where is the evidence here for our analysis? Really great job, sixth grade. Let's start practicing.